All right, so it's time for Vitruvian reading list for 2021 review number 7. And this one is Michael Phelps Beneath the Surface. So I can't actually say that I'm a huge swimming fan, but who isn't a fan of Michael Phelps? And if there was anyone that brought more attention, kind of like what Tiger Woods did for golf, even though golf was much more popular than swimming, I get that. But think about certain sports that aren't the NFL or Major League Baseball, there are some figures that really bring a lot of attention from non-traditional fans of that sport to the table, and that is Tiger Woods in golf, and no doubt it's got to be Michael Phelps with swimming. And I'm currently doing a lot of research on peak performers, their habits, their routines, just kind of getting to know more about them and what they do. And so, what a better subject than Michael Phelps? And this was a good book. It wasn't quite as exciting as the Agassi open autobiography that I read, just because, as I mentioned in that review, and I hope that if you're interested at all in reading just an incredible story about an athlete who was a prodigy, much like Phelps. I think he qualified for his first Olympics at the age of 15. So a lot of similarities with Agassi in that regard. But the Agassi book did a really good job of making you feel the tournaments. I mean, whenever Andre Agassi would talk uh, about playing in a tournament or playing about against a certain competitor, you just felt it. It was really intense. This one, you just kind of get a play-by-play. Michael Phelps's different meets that he competed in. But here was the biggest takeaway. One, I think one of the reasons why Michael Phelps is so successful as a swimmer is, besides the fact that he's got all the physical attributes, he's got arms longer than what he's supposed to have. I mean, when his wingspan is actually longer, when he holds his arms completely out, is actually longer than he is tall, which is obviously a very rare and unusual thing. But he is also someone who found his calling at an early age. This guy was made to swim. He loved it. He would eat, breathe, and sleep it. Another thing that I learned about this, because, you know, I just didn't know about Michael Phelps' character at all. I just don't really know a lot about him. You figure out this guy is just a good dude. He's just an all American guy, loves his mom, loves his family. He had some tension with his dad, but he never at one time dishonors his father. Uh, and then you learn about, the DUI that he got in Athens that was such a big deal. I remember when that happened, and then the time whenever he smoked pot and that was like blown up, and he lost some sponsorships over it. When you read the book and you read about that Michael Phelps character, you realize those were such abnormal, outlying incidents to what is his normal behavior. I mean, if anything, the most outrageous thing Michael Phelps probably would have done up to that point was maybe eat too many cheeseburgers at one time. I mean, it's just that is he's just a really good character, and so I enjoyed reading about just learning who he was, and then just learning kind of what makes a competitor like him tick. He was the guy that said that if he were a baseball player, he would have wanted to go up against, if he were a pitcher, he would have wanted to go up against Barry Bonds. If he were a football player, he would have wanted to go up against Ray Lewis. He thrived on competing against the best of the best. There was just something in him that would drive him to compete and to want to perform against the best. So he was, in that regard, he was fearless when it came to competitors. I did not realize that, I think it was in the 2016 Olympics, that he had given up his spot on the relay team for Ian Thorpe, because Thorpe had not received or not won a gold medal at that Olympics yet. Had Michael Phelps participated on that relay team, he would have been able to get his Mark Spitz tying seventh gold medal of that Olympics. I think I'm saying that right. But instead, since Ian Thorpe had not received one yet, and Michael all but knew that the men's USA team was going to take gold, he gave up his spot. So here is like his top American competitor, that he even had a poster of Ian Thorpe on his wall as his main competition. as somebody, in different events, that he said, here, I want you to take my spot, because Ian Thorpe had been sick and was not up to his best at different competitions during the Olympics, and so I thought that spoke a lot to Phelps's character. So it's a good read. It's a quick read. Again, it's nothing that's like, oh my gosh, you have to run out and get this book. But at the same time, I mean, it's a play-by-play account of one of, if not the greatest athlete to ever live. I mean, it's 2021. We just watched Tom Brady do something that is just will probably never be repeated. Of course, you say that, and then who knows what's going to happen 20 years from now, what kind of athletes we're going to be producing, and how long people are going to be playing. But nevertheless, it seems like Tom Brady's 7 Super Bowls and his 10 Super Bowl appearances will probably last for a long, long time. Same thing with Phelps in his what is it? I think 28 total medals, 23 of which are gold in the Olympics. It's hard to imagine anyone passing that feat anytime soon, for sure. And no one has dominated their sport like Michael Phelps. And he's just, again, a good guy, great character, good family guy, loves his mom, and just so incredibly disciplined. That was one of the things that I found pretty incredible about him. So at 15, that's whenever he qualifies for his first Olympics. But prior to that, when he was coming up, I mean, he started at a very young age. And what this meant was a ton of work for a kid, just not getting to do what the other kids would do. His mom actually talks about how he's wanting to go sledding, because it's a snowy day. He grew up in Baltimore, and she says, she doesn't say no. She says, he says, well, all my friends are going to do it. And she said, well, or basically, I'm paraphrasing here. Are your friends going to the World Championships next summer? Or are they doing, in other words, Michael, you're not normal. You don't get to live and lead a normal life. So, and he just was like, yeah, you're right. His coach, Bob Bowman, I didn't know anything about him. That's a remarkable character. As someone, I personally I do some coaching and training, some performance coaching. And so, uh, getting to understand his relationship with Michael Phelps and the respect that the two of them had for one another and how that dynamic worked was really cool. You know, one of my favorite stories was kind of a Nick Saban type story as far as working the process. So after Michael qualified for his first Olympics, he comes home and his mom has put a big banner that's red, white, and blue with fringe or whatever. And I know that's not the right word, but it doesn't matter. All over it and saying congratulations. And immediately Bob Bowman, his coach, goes up in the yard and takes it down. And Debbie Phelps says, Bob, do you understand what he just did? And Bob Bowman says, Debbie, this is one step in 1,000 to get to where we're going. This is just a very small piece of it. And so he said this is one step in 1,000 step process. And so he was really, really good at keeping Michael focused. But so he was this harsh disciplinarian of a coach. But then what an amazing figure in Michael Phelps at such a young age to be able to take that kind of coaching, to be able to not just lose it. So just a really, so really, it's a book about a guy that has been doing exactly what he was called to do. If the guy's not going to be a merman, then this is the next best thing. He was made for the pool, an incredible competitor, a guy with outstanding character, just a good all-American, hardworking athlete who has a neat family behind him, and he loves his family. And so it's a good read. If you just want to read a great story about a champion from the champion's point of view, then I recommend Michael Phelps, Beneath the Surface, which was, again, book 7 on the 2021 Vitruvian reading list. With that, please subscribe to the channel. Please check out these reviews. Please recommend in the comments books you think I should read. It's been really cool. I have been getting a lot of good recommendations, and so Amazon is shipping books to my house almost daily. So I will probably be, even though the goal was to read 52 books this year, I'm definitely going to surpass that. I'm going to have to with all these amazing books that I'm getting recommended. So thank you guys for that have recommended. So please take the time to do that, and check back here, check the channel for all the sorts of things that I'm trying to do to improve always in all ways. That is the Vitruvian Project motto. Also, please go out to jasonrightnow.com or the Vitruvianproject.com and sign up for the Vitruvian letter. This is my weekly newsletter. It's short, it's concise. It's just documentaries that I'm watching, books that I'm reading. It links to these reviews, and I talk about nutrition, fasting. I'm really doing a lot of research on life extension and anti-aging, or at least slowing the aging process. Looking at a lot of Peter Attia's work, and what he's doing, and where he's pointing when it comes to cognitive ability and everything. I try to share tips and tricks that I'm learning as far as enhancing your mind and what you can do to again slow that aging process. For instance, I talk a lot about how physical exercise is one of the greatest things you can do to keep your IQ from slipping, which about the age of 20, then your IQ starts to drastically slope downward, but you can really slow that with physical exercise. So just an example of the things that I like to talk about in the Vitruvian letter. So please consider subscribing to that. And with that, please keep checking back. The next book, I'm kind of this is kind of hard. It was going to be, let's see, I've got it over here. It's a James Stockdale's book. What is it? The thoughts of a philosopher fighter pilot. Yeah, thoughts of a philosopher fighter pilot. Excuse me. The James Stockdale story. If you know anything about James Stockdale, Admiral Stockdale, he was in a POW prisoner of war camp for 7 years. The Hanoi Hilton. He was the top-ranking U.S. naval officer that was there for 7 years, and so he led his men that were there captive with him. It's the same concentration camp or prisoner of war camp that John McCain was in. So I've read some of Stockdale's essays and speeches about it, but I've never read the actual full story. So this book is about his applying Stoic philosophy to that time and how it kind of got him through that. So I'm either going to read that or The Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck. So I'm really trying to dig back into some of the good classic writings of American authors, not just American authors, but just good novels. And so I may try to knock both of those out at once, but I just don't know that I've got the bandwidth to do that. So it's going to be, the review will either be The Grapes of Wrath or Stockdale's book on thoughts of a philosopher, whatever, what I said, philosopher, fighter, pilot. I'm sorry I keep butchering that title. But anyway, thanks for checking out the review, and I hope to see you back here. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, folks.